Hello, my name is Bobby Perry. This is the 21st episode of BPerryFilms Podcast. On today's episode, we'll be talking about burnout, most importantly, how it affects people. Burnout happens to everyone, and it feels impossible to avoid. In this video, me and my guest, Daniel Mondragon, will be sharing our tips and tricks on how to manage it more effectively. Daniel is currently attending school at Georgia State University as a finance and real estate student. He is currently working towards achieving his bachelor's degree and launched his podcast called The Daily Bread, where he gives advice on productivity hacks. Hopefully, by the end of this video, you will find some strategies that work for you and get a better idea on how to increase positive habits to relieve stress. So, Daniel, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. Yes, I'm currently a student at Georgia State. I'm also a side hustle entrepreneur. I have a painting business, which is something I've grown up doing. But, I do have my creative needs. So having these conversations and picking each other's brains is something I definitely look forward to. And I'm super excited.
I'm glad to have you here. I know for being a college student as well, I can understand stress that comes along with that. And also when it comes to being a full-time solopreneur or entrepreneur or business owner, and you're trying to find yourself and dealing with all the stress factors that happen externally and how they affect you internally as well. So I would like to go into the discussion of how would you describe burnout in your perspective?
My perspective, I think the biggest ways I would burn out, at first, I would burn out physically, and it's not actually in the way you think. Because whenever I first started college, you take 5 classes and you sit down and you start working everything out and you're on a desk for who knows how many hours. But I was not used to that. I'm used to being on ladders and painting and like doing everything with my hands. And then all of a sudden, like the next week I'll go into college and then I'm sitting down for like 6 hours. I actually get tired of sitting down.
Yeah.
Like I usually start doing my work like around 7, and by about 7 a.m. and probably by about 11 or 12, like my body just wanted to like do something. I would kind of be burned out of sitting down, and it didn't let me focus. It didn't let me go on to my tasks. It was a mixture of like a mental burnout and a physical burnout in a way. Mm-hmm. So, man, that dragged me down a lot, because I know there's students who could sit down all day and just grind it, even if they're not necessarily like studying all day, but, doing their work. And I couldn't do that because my body, it just really had the need to move in a way. You know what I mean? So, definitely. Oh, man, it really held me back. And I was trying to figure out a way to set myself up again. And, I tried taking power naps and I tried stretching and I tried doing all these things. But, I would still be tired of sitting down. Like I even considered getting a stand-up desk. Those stand-up desks?
Yeah, I have one. The autonomous. Yeah.
Yeah, I even considered getting one of those. So my body could just be doing a little bit of something. But yeah, I think that was probably my biggest experience with like a burnout. And of course, after several hours of studying, like you cannot look at that paper anymore, like Definitely. Those same concepts that like you're reviewing, it gets to a point where like after 2 or 3 hours of reviewing the same concepts, at least for me personally, I need to take a break or I need to do something to like get me back on track, because studying, it's not just plain work, it's not like punching a bag. So
definitely. And
so,
I would
I think
as being the physical, mental, and emotional state of being. And it's usually caused by working too hard, being in school, or certain environments that could be toxic. I'm not saying school can be toxic, but it's like if you don't take breaks and moderations, like you said, power naps, but sometimes that's not always effective because your body doesn't fully fall asleep and it's trying to recalculate itself. As you notice, like when you wake up from a nap, you still feel kind of woozy because it takes
Oh yeah. That's probably the worst part of taking a nap.
Yeah. But when you put yourself in all these different shoes, it's like the first step that you should do is figure out what is causing you that stress. Is it the workload? Is it the difficulty of the assignment, or do you have bad time management? It just depends on the person, or it could be all those factors. It could be
Yeah, and some people are all three.
yeah. It's a lot of things to deal with, and like you said earlier, both of us have our own business, and it's like, who do we have to rely on? People come with you with complaints, and how are you supposed to deal with it? You can't run to someone else. They're coming to you personally. They might be angry, they may be upset, they might be crying, but you just have to resolve the issue the best you can. And like, just give me a moment, ma'am or sir. Tell me everything that's going on. I'll take down some notes and let me report to you in about 48 hours. Like learning how to like calm them down and making sure that everybody's at equal level. Because if one person's raising their voice, sometimes raising your voice that's equally higher could come off as a threat, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
if you keep like a mellow tone, sometimes they'll be like, why is this person not at the same level as me? Maybe because they understand what you're going through, but they want you to have reasonable thoughts, you
They
know?
want you to go back down to that level. Because don't get me wrong, like I mean, there's times where, like, let's say I'm in the middle of doing a school assignment, or in general, like I get a phone call of some, paint project that there's touch-ups on a wall, or that a front door wasn't painted correctly, and they call me and they're angry. And they're yelling, they're not telling me, can you please come fix this? They're like, Daniel, what is this? This is the worst job I've ever seen, and all this profanity, right? And
Hmm.
well, you got to be the one to be like, okay, she is currently cussing me out right now, and she does owe me money. So I'm going to have to, bite my freaking tongue and, all right, yes, ma'am. Like, what can I help you with? And don't worry about it. Like, I got it. Even though you may be burning inside, but you got to be like, this is where I think like not everybody is cut out to be, an entrepreneur, because you really have to be patient.
Hmm. And
You really have
sometimes
to.
you have to want to walk away from certain situations, which can be
Yes,
tough.
there's some jobs that you're better off. You're literally winning not doing them,
Yeah.
because like let's say in my case, like I know I guess this relates a lot to burnout, because in painting, it's all about patience. Like there's so many small details, and you will never get it 100% right, because the more you look at a wall, the more imperfections you're going to see at it. So you kind of have to find an equilibrium. And whenever I go, like I get a call, right, that they need to see, they want something done, or they want a room painted and they want something painted, I go and check it out. And I get there and I meet the person, and right off the bat, the homeowner is like very arrogant, very micromanaging. Like the moment I see that they're very nitpicky about a lot of things, I don't even bother, man. Like, like I say, thank you. Like, you will receive my quote in 2 to 3 days, and I leave and I do not even contact back, because I know exactly how that job is going to work out. They're going to see some sort of lighting angle on the wall. They're not going to like it, and I'm not going to get paid. So I'm better off winning by walking away.
Yeah,
So it's one of those things where you're better off just not doing it. It's like that cute girl at the bar that has all these issues. You're better off not talking to her.
mhm.
so so I do think burnout can be avoided, and sometimes it can't be avoided. So
Yeah. And I would like to highlight to people that it does happen to everyone. There is no full out way of saying I
I'm
have
never
avoided.
having burnout.
That's true. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guy was like, I never experienced burnout. But I'm like, you have 5 channels on YouTube, you have a Twitch account, you have an Instagram, you have all these different courses going on. You might have a team, a small team, and whatever, but I kind of see a little bit of him burning out a little bit. It's like he's able to write out his thoughts, so he doesn't burn out the same that we do. He has a background as being a doctor. So, they have really good study habits, and they're dealing with stress all the time.
Stress tolerance, huge stress tolerance.
Yeah. But like I said, I do feel like he's burning out a little bit, but he knows how to manage it well, where it doesn't look like a traditional burnout.
Yeah. No, and like, I don't think there exists someone who has never been burnt out. Because, like being burned out is being stressed. And stress at the end of the day can be a really good motivator too. You kind of want a little bit of stress. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're signing up for a little bit of stress.
Mm-hmm.
So, depending, like if there's people who don't show it, they definitely know how to manage it.
Yeah,
But I'm sure there's moments where people are by themselves where they're like, I'm stressed.
definitely. Let's go about how it affects the body. You did mention that people do feel exhausted. That's the first early stage. You kind of go like, oh, I used to do this and that, and now I feel a little bit drained. Yes, that's the early sign, and it's time for you to like kind of like take a break a little bit, or just pause on what you're doing and maybe step away for a day or two and then come back. I know some other things that could occur is you can develop diabetes type 2 if you don't treat it right away. And I know that's alarming for people. And I do have a podcast episode talking about diabetes and how it affects the body. It's like if you don't listen to the early signs, or people around you don't notice the little things and you're not reaching out for help, you're putting yourself at risk. And just by saying that you're not burnt out doesn't mean that you're not. You need to listen to your body first. If your mind is going, your heart is pumping really fast, you're shaking a little bit, these are some signs.
I've seen some people that I know have a very relaxed life, in the sense where like I feel like some personalities, or some people's personalities, are like naturally a little bit less stressful. I guess, what do they call it? Neurotic, a little bit
Hmm.
less neurotic. And those people, like I keep up with them now because I've known them for years, but like their health is great, and they don't look in the greatest of shape. You know what I mean? Like I just recently I had a cousin who, no, he's not my cousin, he's my uncle actually. He's like about 40 something,
Hmm.
48, and he's really overweight. And he just went to the doctor, and he was expecting to have diabetes, high blood pressure, all these things, because like he gets headaches and he eats racetrack food every morning. Now, that good life.
Hmm.
And he went to the doctor, he got his exams, and he waited a week to get the results. And when he got him back, he was great on blood pressure. He was great on diet, on sugar. He was great on cholesterol. And like his body doesn't look like he's in peak performance, but his body is doing great. But this
Yeah,
person, things slide off of him as if it was butter, Like he doesn't stress about that many things. And maybe stress in the long term really does kill you, or
I think, let's say if someone was dealing with like mental health issues and anxiety, then I always gonna feel comfortable telling you about it because they don't want that judgment, which is another stage of burnout. And like I said, if people aren't seeking help through like a professional or through their peers, if they don't trust them enough, it can really develop and become a long-term effect. Burnout can last probably like a year or more. I experienced it for a long time, and it was from my background in performing arts, traveling, getting my all my degrees in 5 years and no break. And I was teaching, choreographing, and all types of things. And by the time when I got my master's, when I was, I think, 22-ish, I was just turning
you got
22.
masters at 22.
Yeah, I was one of the,
Wow.
actually, I was the youngest one in the school. Yeah. But I felt like, I don't know how I'm going to manage this. It was like the whole thing of like, what am I going to do next? How do I find a job? How am I going to stay home with parents? Student loans, that's a stressor. You just start freaking out because not everything is scheduled like how you had it before. So what I did was invest in a planner, and I said I'm gonna commit to this planner, paper planner. Like I tell everyone, the first step to achieving a goal is by writing it down. So I wrote down some words that I feel at this current moment, some words that I want to be at that moment, and pick out 3 words of what's going to take me there. And I thought just start was my first word. And I took that for the first trimester of my business. And it's all about pushing out the first video, getting the first client, writing that business plan, and seeing where things go, because you'll never be able to get somewhere unless if you start. So I thought that was a power word. The next word was accountability. How am I going to keep about accountability to myself, making sure that I have my peers reminding me to take breaks. They're like, it's been 3 weeks. We haven't heard from you. What's going on? Are you okay? Yeah, I'm about to take a break. Don't worry. They get on top of me for it. I'm a little bit of a workaholic, and it's not always a good thing. But like I said, learning who you are as a person and trying to figure out different avenues that work, because you can ask other entrepreneurs how they started and how they got by, but their paths are going to be completely different because they have access to different resources than you do, and they live different lifestyles.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I know some people that have like a great group of friends that keep up with them and or make sure they're doing okay, and like they have like a support system going, which
Mm-hmm.
sounds ideal, but you can't make friends one day to another. So that's not something that everybody has. So, and then there's some people that just don't really need someone to push them up. They need someone to tell them to stop working so hard. You know what I mean? And then there's some people that you got to remind them to don't forget about your goal. So I do think an accountability group, or having like more than anything, like in a reflection of yourself. I don't know what your case is. I don't know if it's harder for you to stop working or if it's harder for you to like get on track for the tasks of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, I guess you could say that there's times where I need to find myself accountable to um to get started with the things that I need to do,
I
to
think
not procrastinate.
I think
And
people are too focused on the hustle mentality of work, work, work. You'll get results a lot faster. But no, if you take a moment to observe where you are, like I said, taking at least a break once a week, twice a month, and treat yourself. And I'm learning how to do that. Like go out, get some, treat myself out to dinner, or go to the mall, hang out with some friends. And when you come back the following day and you look at your analytics or any way that you monitor your performance, like evaluations forms, but of yourself, you kind of get a new lens of what's going on, and you're exposing yourself to more resources and more opportunities because you're branching out instead of staying in a little bubble.
right, right. Definitely makes sense. That I think probably also one of the biggest forms of stress that people encounter, typically whenever they don't have an accountability group, is
Mm-hmm.
that you get stressed from not you can also get stressed from not doing anything. You know what I mean? Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, like I know a lot of people in my age group, maybe our age group, that that are stressed because they don't know what they want to do with their lives, or they don't know. And whenever they tell me I don't know what I want to do with my life, like that question's too vague. Like it's kind of like asking what's the meaning of life. Like, okay, for starters, nobody knows what the meaning of life is. So everybody figures it out on their own. So specify your question. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
them get stressed with like, okay, so what am I going to do? I know a lot of people that haven't even decided what degree they want to pursue yet. And these are people who are, sophomores, juniors in college. And I know a lot of people who are stressed because they feel like they're not having a fulfilling job. Or there's people who are stressed because they don't have a nice car. Or there's people who stress because they just feel like they're disappointed. They're disappointed they don't have a decent savings account. They're disappointed because they can't find a home to live in. They're disappointed because they know they're lazy couch potatoes. So these people get stressed and, eventually probably depressed because they just don't feel worthy. So I think that is probably like, now that I'm thinking about burnout, I kind of think of it as like what is it called? What's that graph called?
Like a diagram.
Yeah, it's a specific Plato. You know the Plato distribution?
Oh, you're talking about the line chart?
Something like
Uh,
that. The Plato distribution. It's kind of like, I can't write it down right now, but it's like an exponential something. So like burnout could be either because you're working too
Oh,
much,
different stages of burnout.
and
Yeah.
then you could be really
Highs
stressed
or
out
low.
with burnout because you're not doing anything at all.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. And I was thinking for like how to treat burnout, like when people sign up for my business coaching or for any other resources and stuff that I offer with my business, I always tell people write a SWOT analysis, and it's your strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. If you're able to categorize everything, like I said, start with the 20 words of what are you good at, what you're not good at, where you want to be, where do you see yourself. And then when you start plugging in things of saying, this is what I'm really good at, this is what I'm not good at, this is how I can get there if I apply myself, reading books, articles, reaching out to peers or people who are experts in that field. And what are some threats? The threat could be burnout or not achieving that goal, but that can be an opportunity as well. You know, if you experience burnout, it's not a bad thing, but it's just telling you maybe you should try something different. So we should always look for the good and things that causes negative sometimes, and not always focus on the current state of mind, but how you're going to get there instead of asking, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Like if you're burning out in something, it's probably exposing a weakness. You know what I mean? Like, let's say we're running on a treadmill and we get to like 10 minutes and we barely get to 10 minutes. You're like, okay, well, I'm burned out, but at the same time, this is kind of like my limits, you know? I
Mm-hmm.
should be able to go over my limits. So now you kind of know what your limit is and what to kind of strive for.
It's kind of like when people ask the question when I was working at Target, how am I supposed to get up the escalator and it's not working? People forget that there's stairs. You can walk up there. So, so it's kind of like, don't look for the obvious thing, but just be observant of opportunities that you can take. You can take an elevator or you can walk up the stairs. It's not that you can't use it at all.
Right.
No.
Which I think is kind of like a roadblock or a psychological roadblock that people put on themselves all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it amazes me that even in like Matt's course, like you see the part where he showed like his very first camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like he said it was potato quality camera. And you know,
Yes,
like
came a long ways. And I think through his course, it's giving you some things you already know, but it's like when he explains it, he kind of like talks to you. Kind of like if you're watching this video right now, like we're relating to you through our experience, where he's like, he's not using the fact that he's the cinematographer as like he's the best at everything, but he's always looking for opportunities to grow in something that he's not strong in. And sometimes we have to look between the lines. Like maybe it's your thumbnail that's not working. Maybe it's your captions that's not working. Maybe it's the title. Maybe it's the content. It could be a lot of factors as to why your video is not growing. But unless if you study your analytics and ask your audience, what intrigues you the most? What didn't you agree with? And then when you're reading through the comments, you're like, wow, I didn't look at things like this. Oh, this person relates to me in this way. This person doesn't. But let me try to reach out to them somehow and like reply to the comment and say, how did you get that answer? Like I said, just asking appropriate questions for the right type of person.
Right. Which is very useful, but it can be hard when you're starting off too, because nobody's watching.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? So it's crazy to me that there's some people that like find a system that works and nobody showed them the system, but they just kind of like stumble upon it and it just works. You know, like who would have known? Like, I bet you Matt didn't know that whenever he was starting off, he was going to be making documentary style vlogs. You know, I think he said it himself that whenever he started off, he tried to do like talking heads or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
that's when you had the picture on the side and you're like speaking right there, and have the visuals somewhere else.
in a way, yes. And like in that same sense, like who was he gonna ask? The 8 subscribers he had as his family members, you know what I mean? So
Right.
it's crazy. It's a very inspiring story because I think we all start there, you know.
We all
And
start.
yeah, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the story. You know who you know who Mr. Beast is?
Yeah, he
That
started
guy,
at
have
like,
you
I think, right back when
huh?
YouTube first He was started like 15 years ago, I think.
Yeah. His story of whenever he started YouTube, it's crazy. He was like 13 or like 14.
Hmm.
And like, he loved making videos, and he never made a dime on it for the first like 8 years. But he just really enjoyed doing it. And it got to the point where, he was about to graduate high school, and his mom was like, okay, so like, what are you going to do with your life? You can't just be stuck on your laptop all day like you are now.
Hmm.
And
And
he
what's
was
interesting
like,
about him is that he spends thousands or hundreds and thousands on his sets and videos. And he even honestly said if he doesn't like it, he'll pull it and move on to something else. But look at how much risk that he puts into it.
I think I heard that he spends like about $4 million a month on just making his videos.
I believe it. He has a ton of sponsors, endorsers, affiliates. Everybody's invested in him because he's invested in himself.
And that's crazy because like he was saying, because even like the first couple of years, like he didn't have nobody watching. So whenever he was going to graduate high school, his mom wanted him to like do something with his life, right? And she forced him to go to community college. He said that he hated it. So he just told his mom that he was going to college. But for the first 2 years, he would just sit in his car and edit the videos and record everything in his car and
Mhm.
pretend like he was going to college. Imagine lying that way to your parents, and like to know that you're chasing something that you're still uncertain about. So it's just pure passion, those stories, you're like, okay, this person, he is literally made for YouTube. So
Yeah, I like him and I like Marcus Brownlee. They work very hard and they're very informative and they're really great at storytelling.
yeah. And I mean, that's all it is. And whenever you look at YouTube, you don't really think that. Actually, I didn't really think that whenever I first look at YouTube. I just looked at YouTube as like funny videos and like music, and that's it. I never really thought of it as a platform of where independent YouTubers and creators perfect storytelling. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So that is
Next,
what it is.
next we'll go into some tips on to how people can manage their stress. I put down time management, like I had mentioned before, delegating tasks, writing things down. I know I might sound old fashioned, but agendas, either book form, using Asana, Notion, Trello, any type of app, make sure that you write down your schedule, even iCalendar or what do they have on Android phones? But they have like some type of calendar and you can write down what your agenda is and even keep track of like all your assignments, making sure that you're achieving these goals and also scheduling breaks, like when you're going to take your meal during the day, when you're going to be working out, when you're going to go join this club. This just puts a roadmap for you. So you're able to visualize seeing what you have to do. So when you have that free time and those empty blocks, you can just focus on just like going for a walk, relaxing,
Hmm.
understanding what is a priority or what is a luxury thing. Like, do I need to go to the gym or should I go to this concert? What's going to give you the long results? I think the concert is more of like short term satisfaction, while going to the gym is long term and it improves your health. So sorry to put that as an example, but you got to choose.
Right. No, yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you brought that up because I don't know. I'm guessing you know who Jordan Peterson is, right?
I said I have heard the name before.
Oh, yeah. He was giving a talk on making a schedule. And he was like, most people who make schedules, almost all people who make schedules need help to manage their time. Typically are people who are a mess. And I mean, it's true, you want to organize your time, you want to put all your thoughts into one schedule. But the problem with schedules is that you hate them, at least in the beginning. So he's saying that like you should make your schedule your friend, in the sense that like whenever you're starting off, you could make your schedule with not necessarily like the very most perfect day that you want, but putting in things that you're going to do either way. Like, let's say, like, I'm a big nap guy, like I take a
Mhm.
lot of naps. So in my schedule, whenever I first started to make it, I would put in, reading textbook for finance from 7 to 8. And then from 8 to 8:30, I'd take a power nap, and then I'd write that down on my schedule. And then after that, I'd go to let's say my what other class did I take? My marketing managing courses. And then I'd do that from 9 to 11. And then after that, I type in like going to the gym from 12 to 1. And then from 1 to like 3, I would type in, I don't know, like eating and watching Matt's videos. And then because it's things that I know I'm going to do. But what really gave me satisfaction whenever the very first time I started to make like to-do lists and having like a schedule is that I would see that at the end of the day, I would be able to cross off everything. You know what I mean? I feel like such a great satisfaction grabbing my little sticky note with all my to-do things and seeing that they're all crossed off. I'm like, okay, I did something today. I'm going to try this again tomorrow. And then I would write down again that I'm going to be reading from 7 to 8. And then I'm going to be taking a nap from 8 to 8:15. And then it's that little kind of like feedback loop.
Yeah.
That I think you should really implement things inside your to-do list that you know you're going to do, even though they might not necessarily be 100% productive. But knowing that you're going to do them, like take a nap or go to the gym or, eat and then take a 30-minute YouTube break or something. Whenever you cross those off, you're like, okay, well, this to-do list really shows what my day is like.
Definitely.
And I think that is a very great first step to organization.
You don't have to put in quotation marks. That's actually effective.
Yeah. So I think that's, I think that was a big thing. I think that's a big step everybody should take, making your schedule your friend.
I do a little bit of journaling. I have implemented that into my routine. It might not be every week, but every other week at least. And I write down what am I feeling great about at the moment? What have I this time frame? What are some goals that I have for the future? Let me reflect on this. Have I completed all these tasks in a certain amount of time? And then what are the sub points underneath? Kind of like how I do with the podcast. Like we have the title, what the summary is going to be about, and then the key points that we're going to be breaking down. So I kind of write my journal out like that. So it gives me like a clear vision of what are the pain points that I want to answer for myself and what's going to get me to accomplish this quote unquote big goal.
How often do you journal?
I would say once a week to every other week. It just depends. But I do keep a note of everything I have accomplished. Well, we'll say for the beginning of the month. How my planner is set up is like I have a couple of goals that I want to complete for the week. They're like high level, whether it's booking more clients, producing more videos, going on a vacation or something like that. And then in the different days, I just break down what is my routine for the week, and then what are some sub points that I need to really hit, like planning out a video, reaching out to people, making sure that they pay the invoice, sending out the file, let them know what the outline's going to be like, and report back in 2 to 3 days and record a video. Next comes editing the video, creating a thumbnail, getting a title, description, posting it. How am I going to market it on my newsletter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn? And then by the end of the week, I finally hopefully get over 100 and something views or something at least. And if that didn't work, I just now review through my analytics on the YouTube studio, and I figure out what parts are people dropping off at, what is the percentage of people returning back, is this connecting with people, what are the comments saying, and prepare for the next video. Sometimes I'm doing 2 videos in a week, sometimes 3 to 4 in a month. It just depends. But I have a consistent schedule of when I upload, and I try to keep myself accountable. Because if I don't stick to a routine, my audience is going to be like, what's going on? Why isn't he posting on the day that he normally posts?
What day do you normally post? Mondays?
Monday.
Every Monday. Okay.
Every other Monday. Yeah.
Every other Monday.
Yeah, I post at least 2 to 3 times a month.
Same. I'm around the same way. I try to post every Friday at 9 a.m.
Okay.
Every other Friday.
I always tell people start with the every other first, just get your flow going. If you want to switch to once a week, kudos for you. If you want to do it 3 times a week, kudos to you. If you want to do it every day, I don't know how you're doing it, but kudos to you.
Even once a week already sounds like that's my goal, like that's my next goal. Because right now, like my next goal is to be able to produce a video in about a week. I'd like to upload weekly.
Mm-hmm.
But, right now I started uploading videos in January, and it's already been about 6 months. So I'm glad I haven't stopped.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I've been doing it every 2 weeks. So my goal is to make it every week. But,
take
as
your
you
time.
like, I mean, I think you might understand me on this. Like, as you go like editing and like figuring out the process a little bit more, you do it a little bit quicker. So
I think it's because of what my videos being a little bit on the longer side. I don't want to overwhelm people. And it also gives an opportunity for my guests to get a little bit of spotlight for a week or two.
Yeah,
So
and then like
that's
instead of just like moving on to the next guest or whatever.
mm-hmm.
What's your favorite podcast out there right now?
Oh, there's so many people. I like the Ground Up Show with Matt Del Villa. What else? I like Anthony O'Neill. He's good. What is his name? I'm trying to think.
Do you watch Joe Rogan's podcast?
Joe Rogan? No, but I do listen to Gary Vee here and there.
Oh, Gary Vee. Yeah.
This is more aggressive. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
I got you. Cool. Yeah. No, I was just curious. Huh?
And my own.
I like your own. Yeah.
Videos.
For sure. That, yeah, definitely. But how about you? What is one of the biggest ways you experience burnout right now?
Not taking breaks. Like I said, I am a workaholic. If I don't meet these certain deadlines, it's overwhelming for me. And I don't like the responsibility of I let my audience down. So I put them first. And I'm trying to create videos that I would watch personally. Like, say, if I was watching a few videos and I gave out wrong information, or they didn't give out enough information because their videos are too short, or they're not like a professional in that area, I try to fill in that gap.
Definitely. I think that's probably one of the biggest problems right now on YouTube. Like a way to show credibility, and to show that your information is valid. Because the only way we could really somewhat think that the information being said is valid is through like subscriber count or like the amount of likes. There's nothing set in stone saying that, this person's information is actually true. So
I think podcast is that our videos are a little bit longer and people's attention spans are a lot shorter. So by the time when I get to the end of the video, they probably haven't made it to the end, so they don't even get to the answer or possible solutions that they could have got if they watched the whole thing.
Right. And that's probably why a lot of people and a lot of channels make snippets of podcasts. You know what I mean? Have you noticed that? There's a lot of people
like Spotify as well. They might have like the full audio on Spotify, and then I might have little snippets on YouTube.
Yep. So I've definitely seen that, but like I'm all for the long format podcasts. I really enjoy them. Like I'm working or I'm driving and I just plug it in and I listen, because there's some really smart people out there that have long podcasts.
Some of them be 4 hours and I'm like, I can't make it through it. I might have to spread this into 3 days.
Yeah. And then but I mean, I think it's such a revolution, because like now people like Gary Vee, people like Matt, people like, all these influencers online, they have their podcasts. If you ever have a chance, check out Joe Rogan's podcast. He has some really smart people on there. Tim Ferriss, do you know Tim Ferriss?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has a podcast too, and he has some really good people on there. And there are people that,
people think podcasts can't make it on YouTube, but let me tell you, we're taking over.
Yeah. And, I see those people and and I see their podcasts and I'm like, I'm blessed to have these, hear these people's conversations, because they're freaking millionaires and they're spilling out the best of their knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So I really feel blessed with that. And, that's the same way with books, but, books is much more deeper than podcasts. So, but you know,
This they can
podcasts.
make into a video because people's attention spans aren't there due to TikTok and Instagram Reels. But books, you can make it as long as you want or as short as you want. You have more creative freedom.
Definitely. So, you know, I understand in a way, like in YouTube, you know, there's a lot of people who make shorter videos. And did you ever hear about that case study of some YouTube channel called Beluga?
No.
No, it's this YouTube channel that grew literally like 4 million subscribers in like a month with
Oh, I
like
think I did. Someone posted up a video doing a reaction to it, trying to figure out how they blew up.
how they blew up, and they were doing like chats on Discord, like
Hmm.
parody chats on Discord, and they were doing like a parody of like how he grew up. And he has super short 4-minute videos, and they all like just a quick, like very essential storytelling, you know, as a
Hmm.
plot, it has an enemy, it has a protagonist, it has a solution, and then an ending.
Yeah.
And they're like 4 minutes, and like he started to blow up the algorithm or something like that, and he got 4 million subscribers.
Yeah, short form can be easier to digest, but people need to keep in mind just because it has a lot of views doesn't mean the view duration is that great, even for like long form or short form. So
Right.
that's look at as people view these videos.
Right. And if he enjoys doing that, then great, you know, but you know, like then you have people like Matt who have like great genuine devotion and fulfillment from his videos, you know, and they definitely take longer. I'm sure they take longer to make.
Hmm.
And then there's people like him that have great fulfillment from making his slighter longer form documentary vlog style videos. So it just kind of depends, I guess.
Another point that we can bring up is traveling and detoxing. I think for me, when I go out of state, I'm more focused on just relaxing. I don't answer the phone. I'm not checking any electronics. Sorry, people, if you're reaching out to me, but I'm not responding to anyone at that moment. But when I'm in different states, I try to do what the state is famous for. Like when I went to LA, I went hiking for the first time. It was
I
very
heard they
chill,
have great
but
hikes.
when I made it to the top of the hill, I was like, this is the first time I ever seen pollution. They had like the smog in the air. But when I got up there, I just felt so grateful for all the opportunities I got to have because there's a lot of homeless people who wanted to become actors, singers, dancers, or any type of art form, and they just didn't make it. And there's a lot of factors, and just being able to be right where the Hollywood sign is and like, wow, I really made it up this hill. And it just shows the struggles that I went through, like me climbing and then making it to the top. And I felt like I can work with something right here. What is my purpose and what do I want to have my impact to be? You know, it's kind of like when I was watching the movie Soul and finding a purpose. It's like, do I want to be just known as a performer or do I want to be known as an arts, entertainment type of company where I try to give other people the platform that I wish I had when I was younger, you know?
Right. Definitely. And I think whenever you start off in like an artistic endeavor, you really got to analyze yourself, you know? What really like makes you happy? Is it the money in the bank account? Is it the actual art piece? Is it the recognition that comes with it? Or is it the I don't know, like it depends what you really, 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 really like pushes you forward, you
I
know?
think
Because
people nowadays, it's just like the clout and just the title, but people don't want to put in the work that comes with it. Just because you think you look a certain way doesn't mean that you have the it factor. And you got to be real with yourself.
right. And especially like in artistic endeavors, like, oh my gosh. You've heard of the 80/20 principle?
Yeah, definitely.
Apparently, yeah, apparently in like the artistic field, it's like a 97/2 type distribution. So it's very brutal on very creative people. So like, you know, a mass amount of the production and the you know the movies and the media out there is produced by a very small number of people out there. And it just results in a huge short line of independent creators that are just not heard or are not being heard.
I
So
think the issue is people just going to their parents or their family members trying to get that yes from them. But sometimes they're lying to you. So actually try to put on a performance with a crowd that doesn't know you, or if you don't feel comfortable performing in front of people, put it on a DVD. Like I have a friend that's trying to perform, friend, quote unquote, this is you. Let them play the track, let them come back to you in a couple of minutes, get their honest opinion, write it down. They can write down the notes anonymously and you take those notes. Some of them could be good, some of them could be bad, but we all have different tastes in music.
Definitely. And yeah, well, it's very hard. It's very hard. And having someone kind of like guide you a little bit from like, because I mean, from what I've seen, like most people who kind of make it in the artistic field really just kind of have a gut and it just like catches fire, and it works out. So, but a little bit of guidance really does help.
Definitely.
Like before I saw Matt's course and I looked at YouTube, I didn't even think about writing a script. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even think, I was like, okay, so you're telling me that people who get on YouTube literally write the whole thing out and then they do it? Like that's crazy. And then I even thought to
scripting and note taking. Yeah.
Yeah, like and I thought to myself, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. Like this is not me. But now, funny enough, scripting is probably one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, definitely.
So like, you're like, okay, dang, like being an artist, you're like trying to like go into a creative field is a completely different ballgame. You really just have to purely enjoy it. You really can't like look at who's watching and who's not watching, but like, because it's true in a sense, like if you're creating the type of content that you truly love, then it's not going to hurt you to put in 12 hours a week, 14 hours a week to put out that content if you're truly passionate about it. But if you're trying to do like a subject or a topic that let's say is really trendy right now, and a topic that is like super out there, like I don't know, like crypto or something like that, then it's not going to interest you as much. And it's going to be harder for you to put in those longer hours. But then there's going to be someone around the corner who truly is passionate about crypto, and they're going to blow out 18 hours out of the water feeling like they were just playing, and you're going to be left in the dust. So that's kind of how I try to see it. You know what I mean? So like Burnout, in a way, like I feel like I'm on the right track if I'm not getting burnt out easily. You know what I mean? Like, like there's a point where like it makes sense, like you've been on the laptop for like 7 straight hours. Like, okay, you're going to get burned out. It's normal. You're not a robot just meant to be plugging in numbers all day. So if you're on a topic, or if you're working on a podcast or like on a YouTube video, and it's a topic that you really don't care about, and you're like an hour and a half in and you're like, oh my gosh, this feels like it's forever, then maybe your burnout is telling you that you're not really passionate about what you're writing about. Definitely. So managing burnout, I think burnout can be your enemy and it can be your friend too, especially in the creative field. Because like I come from, like a blue collar background, and I'm still working as a blue collar, I'm still painting. And, physical burnout is something you really have to push to the side, because it has to be done. It doesn't matter if you're happy or if it's your passion, it has to be done. So that's a different type of burnout. But creative work is not just about, straight up just going at it for hours. Creative work, it really has to come from inside of you.
Definitely. To the recovery stage, how do you manage stress?
The 2 biggest ways right now that I manage stress, and it's something I actually learned a couple months ago. I have it set on my schedule every single time I'm doing like work in the house. And almost all the time, not all the time, but like 87% of the time, I'm putting my work from 6 to 11. At about 11 o'clock, my body wants to do something. So I almost always go to the gym. And I think like just the physical, like the psychological, like your body just feeling like it's moving and sweating, I think really helps me out a lot. Because there's days where I go to the gym and I don't even do that much, Like I go and I sit in the sauna. I really like the sauna. And I sit in the sauna for like 15 minutes and then I just grab my bag and I go home because I'm just not feeling it. And by the time I get home, like I take a shower and I feel rejuvenated, ready to do more office work. So that's one way that I think really gets my brain back in rhythm. My mental thoughts back on rhythm, But that is probably the biggest way I manage burnout when it comes to creative work. Because when it comes to physical work, I manage burnout in a very completely different way.
Definitely.
But whenever it comes to creative work, it's either working out or if someone's at the house, like my mom or one of my siblings, if I sit down and talk to them, and let's say I'm eating lunch and I talk to them for like an hour, and we have like a full-blown conversation, that really gets me off the edge too.
Definitely. I know for me, like I said, I do try to make my schedule set in stone, and I try not to work but so many hours each day. But sometimes client work can take up a lot of time. Sometimes my work can take up a lot of time. It just depends on what type of video. I do post a blog for each video, so definitely check that out in the link below. There will be one for this video, and I noticed that writing has helped me out, like writing each blog post, writing each newsletter. And it gets me to really think about things. I'm listening to your perspective. I'm listening to my perspective. I'm listening to all the different resources that I did to look up all the information. And it kind of puts me in that state of mind of, do I understand what's really going on here? Do I understand myself? Do I understand the level of complexity that I'm making my life? How do I simplify things, make things easier? Not easy, but easier. And so it doesn't feel like hard labor work, but more of I enjoy what I like doing. And it gives me some type of fulfillment that people are gaining more access to information that they didn't have when they were watching 100 of the same video, or trying to read a 1,000-page book, but try to simplify things in a quick 10-minute read, if even that.
So like you're saying that thought exercise of what you're doing this for is kind of what gets you off the edge of burnout?
Yeah, okay. I think my most favorite part of doing all these podcasts is interacting with my guests and not feeling like I have to do it all on my own. And it feels like I'm really communicating more effectively and I'm articulating my words. And you brought up some podcasts that I never heard of, and it makes me want to look them up as well. So
yeah. I mean, that's probably the most beautiful thing about a podcast. You interact with people and you pick other people's minds and you get some ideas that you never thought you would have maybe heard elsewhere. So I do think that is a very beautiful part of podcasting. And you're right, and bringing that, like imagining why you're doing this kind of really does rejuvenate you, and I'm actually glad you bring that up because I'm going to try that. I'm going to try, like, if one day I'm feeling burned out, instead of going to the gym, I'm going to go sit outside and I'm not going to bring any electronics. And I'm going to just try to sit there and imagine why I'm doing this and where I'm headed. And I'm going to try that out.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
I got more questions.
Mm-hmm.
How long does your burnouts last for, in your perspective and experience through them?
Like burnouts to like get rid of them, or like burnouts as in like how long am I frustrated for?
How long before you start taking action, and how long does the action take for you to feel relaxed?
So I think for me to manage a burnout, it takes me about like an hour to get off the edge. And I don't think I've ever taken like a 30-minute break and gone back to work feeling completely rejuvenated when it comes to creative work. Because like physical work, like, yeah, like take a 30-minute break, your body will rest or whatever. But if I know that I'm doing like a script and I'm, putting in the actual creative work in, I got to take at least an hour break. and it's usually around lunch. And I really enjoy eating. So I think that really gets me off the edge too. So I take advantage and I eat, and then I like watch something, and then, I go to the gym for like about an hour. So I usually take like about a 2-hour break if you count my lunch break. And then whenever I come back, I'm ready to go. Saying as far as like straight up, if I'm doing like 3 or 4 hours of creative work is kind of like my lapse before I start to get kind of mentally burned out. You know what I mean? That's kind of like I should be taking a break very minimum every 4 hours of creative work. So that's kind of like, I'm sure it's different for everybody. I mean, look at Mr. Beast. He goes in freaking 13 hours editing every single day, and he wasn't even making a dime off of YouTube. So he and I are very, very different. So, and another thing I could say to resolve burnout is like if you're doing something you really, really, really enjoy. I think I already mentioned this, but it is worth mentioning again, that if you're doing something you really, really, really enjoy, then, burnout, you should not be feeling burnout that often, So even if you don't really find your absolute passion, because I think that's everybody's goal, but at the same time, like, it's kind of like, it's like saying like the perfect job is not ever going to be there. So if you're feeling less burnout towards a certain subject, then that's a good sign. But if you're feeling really burnt out over a very boring subject, that is a very good sign too, that to stop doing that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And burnout can last for weeks, months, even a year. It just depends on the person and how long that they were in a level of stress. Like how I had mentioned in the beginning, if you don't take the appropriate action, like what I experienced when I was going to school and doing all this and that, and even with my business right now, it's just like, if you don't stop doing what you're doing and notice that you are at an area where you feel stagnant, you're going to end up doing long-term damage. Your hair might fall out. You might get a lot of anxiety and get diagnosed with mental illness.
Mental diseases and probably physical diseases too, like diabetes and high blood pressure.
And it's a lot of factors that go into it. So making sure that you have that accountability partner, even if it's yourself, making sure that you're doing a regular check-in, making sure that you are staying hydrated, eating healthy, and just being your authentic self. And like I said, reaching out to people, making sure that you're communicating effectively, because no one's going to understand that you're stressed. We might know what it looks like, but if you're not reporting to us, we don't want to say you look stressed out. Do you need help? And then your mind shift might be like, no, get off of me. I don't feel this way. Because, you're not in a mental state of mind. You might react a certain way that can turn off people. And it does rub off the wrong way for some people at times. Like
Right.
against as anger or sadness.
Yeah. And I do think the majority, they say, right, that the majority of diseases come from abundance. And that could be from abundance of stress. That could be from the abundance of time. That could be from the abundance of food. So really learning to regulate all of those things, not just like your creative work, but like if you learn to regulate all those things, then your burnout, I think, will be significantly less. So I do think that's a very good point.
This is good. So to cap this off, burnout affects everybody. See, me and Daniel have explained our stories. We gave you guys some key points. There will be a blog where I go a little bit further in detail. And don't worry about being burnt out at the moment, but you can always recover from it. Just take a mental break. You don't have to explain yourself to people, but when you feel comfortable, just make sure that your delivery is good. I know that sometimes when you're burnt out, it can make you angry, it can make you very emotional, but everyone's here to support you and throughout your journey. So having effective communication, eating healthy, keeping a clear mind, and delegate your tasks on level of importance. Does this have to get done right now? Is it going to give me long-term gain? Is this a short term, a long term goal that I have to accomplish? Like, really have that mental check. And like we had mentioned, journal things down, use a
Oh,
plan.
writing it down. Oh yeah, I think that helps a lot. Sorry, my bad.
Definitely.
I just wanted
Go ahead. That was good.
yeah, no, writing it down, writing down the struggles, I think will definitely let you completely think it through and really clear the fog of why you're burning out.
Mhm.
So, anyways, my bad. You were saying.
No worries. So, Daniel, what are some of your social contacts that people can reach you at?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram for at Daniel Mondragon, but two N's at the end. And you can find me on YouTube as Daniel Mondragon. And you can find me on Facebook as Daniel Mondragon because there's not many of them out there. So feel free to reach out. And it was a great time talking out here. I'm very happy that I was able to think out everything in this conversation, which hopefully is to your benefit, but at the same time really made me feel like I articulated a lot of things that I probably had in the fog in the back of my head. So I do want to thank you for that.
No problem. And it was great having you as a guest. You can follow me at BPerryFilms on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and definitely sign up for my newsletter where you're going to find out more information on what's going on. And I do have a few announcements to make. I will be hosting a webinar coming up soon. So if you haven't subscribed to my newsletter, please do. Search www.BPerryFilms.com. And also, if you're looking to start a podcast, YouTube channel, need help with financial literacy, scaling your business, managing your business, definitely reach out to me on my website and sign up for a discovery call to see if we can make your roadmap to success. It can be 3 sessions, it could be 6 sessions, as many as you want, to help you achieve the goal that you want to achieve. So thank you all for watching. And I would like to know how you all deal with burnout and have you ever experienced it and seeing how you were able to resolve it. So definitely share that and look out for the blog posts. Thank you.